What's up, everybody? This is Adam Finkelstein coming to you live from Augusta, Georgia, just across the river from North Augusta, South Carolina, which is the location of the Nike Peach Jam, annually the culmination of the summer recruiting period. The Peach Jam tipped off on Sunday. It will run for 8 straight days, with the Nike EYBL champion being crowned this coming Sunday. And there's an escalation all week long. We've had 2 weeks without NBA scouts or college coaches, but the NBA scouts have arrived today. They are in the gym as of this morning. Tomorrow morning, or tomorrow at midday, I should say, the college coaches come in, and it's going to be a packed gym for the rest of the week, with lots of implications, both for college basketball recruiting and for the NBA draft. One of the biggest stories, of course, this week is Gigi Jackson, who has decommitted from North Carolina and committed to South Carolina. He's also expected to reclassify from 2023 to 2022, which means he will be joining South Carolina next year. But here is the caveat. He has not officially announced that part yet. And because of that, he is still eligible to play at the Peach Jam. He's continuing to run with Team CP3, which is Chris Paul's EYBL team. And that's a loaded squad with Robert Dillingham, who's going to Kentucky, Aiden Holloway, who's expected to announce his commitment this week, and a couple other potential high major prospects. So they are expected to be among the contenders this week. And Gigi's decision made huge waves this week, because obviously North Carolina has a ton of momentum coming off their March Madness run under first-year head coach Hubert Davis. Gigi was the top-ranked prospect and is still the top-ranked prospect in the top 24/7 rankings for the class of 2023. Of course, when the reclassification becomes official and he goes to 2022, I do not expect him to maintain that top spot. Very possibly maintains 5-star status, but in the class of 2023, it is, that's just a much deeper, talented class. And it sets up a little bit of, there's a lot of expectations, quite frankly, for Gigi. And it's going to begin today when he plays in front of NBA executives for the first time, because they're going to be looking forward to next June's NBA draft, which he will be eligible for. So the question for NBA executives is a little different than the evaluation for college coaches. At college, you're trying to figure out, if he's able to come in and impact winning at the college level. I do think he's able to do that, but not necessarily be the focal point of an offense. The NBA, it's a little different. They're trying to figure out exactly what position he's going to be. They're trying to assess his mobility and the way his game is going to translate defensively as much as anything. So let's break it down. At college, you've got a couple different factors. Number one, the implications on North Carolina. I don't think this is that significant of a blow for North Carolina. If Gigi's intent was to get to the NBA draft as quickly as he possibly could, then reclassifying is the path to do that. North Carolina is going to be just fine next season. They were not in a position, quite frankly, where they could have offered him a very significant role, given not only who they have coming back up front, but who they're bringing in terms of Bacot and Nance. Obviously, someone of Gigi's talent would have helped, but there were some variables there in terms of they'd have to clear some scholarship space or whatever the case may be. South Carolina and the first-year head coach Lamont Paris, what's interesting about that is South Carolina was always expected to be the destination under previous head coach Frank Martin. So what happens? South Carolina fires Frank Martin, and then Gigi's recruitment gets open again. The other thing that's interesting, not only was South Carolina the favorite under Frank Martin, but the option to reclassify was always expected to be the path. So 3 months ago, this wouldn't have been a surprise at all. In fact, this was widely the expectation that Gigi would finish the grassroots season, commit to South Carolina, join them immediately next year in order to be eligible for the NBA draft. That, as it turns out, ends up being the plan after all, but for a different head coach. So what have we seen this week? Again, there's 2 different levels to this evaluation. There's about what can you expect at the college level and what can you expect at the NBA level. At the college level, I think what you're going to see is Gigi be able to come in and make a big impact for a first-year South Carolina program. I do not expect him to be a focal point of the offense right away. And in fact, we've even seen that here this week. Last night, he went head-to-head with Justin Edwards, another 5-star prospect, Justin is ranked 4th right now in the top 24/7 for the class of 2023. So this would have been a battle of two of the top prospects in contention for the number 1 spot. Justin Edwards is 6'7". He's much more of a conventional wing. Gigi, you can see on these highlights, he's a guy who is working to extend his game, and you can tell that's a priority for him. But right now, he's at his best inside the paint. He's athletic, he's physical, and at the high school level, there's just very few players who can match up with him. One of the things that was surprising last night was Team Final played small, and they put Justin Edwards on Gigi Jackson. So basically, you have a wing guarding a 4-man or maybe even a 5-man by these standards. And Gigi wasn't able to go to work in the post as much as we would have expected. What he was able to do was dominate the glass. He had at least 16 rebounds. Offensively, things didn't really get going for him until the 4th quarter when he started to extend his game away from the basket a little bit, got up and worked out of the elbow areas, started to attack off 1 or 2 dribbles, and that's an area where he had some success. Again, dominant on the glass all game long. Justin Edwards did a really nice job at 6'7", and even a little bit of a leaner frame of pushing Gigi off his spots and showing that he could defend in the post. So again, the college projection for Gigi, he's going to be a developing inside-out threat, but not the type of guy you can build your half-court offense around. I think he's much more of a big than he is a wing at this point. He is a guy that wants to be perceived as a wing and wants to continue to extend his offensive game. And he can do that. He made a 3 yesterday. As I said, he was good when he faced up and played off limited dribbles. Where he gets in trouble is where he starts to sacrifice his efficiency, where the ball starts to stick at the mid-range area. Now, transitioning to the NBA level, the number one concern they have, or the number one thing they are going to be watching this week, is his defensive mobility. They want to see if he's going to be able to defend wings, if he's going to be switchable, or if you're talking about a guy who's more of a 4 or a 5, because he's listed at 6'9". He might be closer to 6'8". And if you don't have mobility away from the basket, that's going to be a problem to his long-term NBA projection. At this point, we're going to open it up to any questions for anybody who's here joining us on this live stream. It can be about Gigi Jackson, Justin Edwards, or just about anything else from the Nike Peach Jam. There's 5 games going on at one time. I can only watch one of them. So if you have a question about somebody I haven't seen, I'm just going to tell you I haven't seen them, but I'm happy to tackle anything you've got. So we will open it up for any questions at this point. So question number 1, when will the Gigi Jackson reclassification be official? I was joking yesterday in the gym that probably on Monday. It's going to be after Peach Jam. I think they'll probably, just for timing's sake, probably not do it right away, on Monday. But this is a worse kept secret than the fact that Gigi was flipping from North Carolina to South Carolina in the first place. Everybody knows he's going right away. So I would expect the news next week, because quite frankly, I would expect Gigi to get to campus as soon as possible, because one of the other things that's working against him right now is the fact that he's missing summer sessions. So not only is he going in and trying to help a first-year head coach being perceived as somewhat of a local savior by local fans, but he's even starting from behind because of the fact that he's missing summer sessions. So I expect the announcement potentially as early as first thing next week, in order for him to get to campus and start to acclimate himself as soon as possible. What do you think about McKenzie Mgbako right now? Do you think he will maintain a top 3 status in the class? Thank you for that question. So McKenzie is playing on the New Jersey Scholars. He is on arguably the most talented team in the EYBL, because he's got DJ Wagner on that team. He's got Aaron Bradshaw on that team. So he's got 3 5-star prospects. McKenzie's a little bit of a polarizing guy, because he's a skilled perimeter forward, not unlike Gigi. I think the questions lie on the defensive end of the floor. For me, I'll speak for myself. My concerns about McKenzie are, can he get out and defend a wing, or is he really more of a face-up 4-man? If he's a face-up 4-man, there's still a lot of value in that, but he's not really a shot creator. He's more of a catch-and-shoot guy, or he's more of a mid-post guy. So he doesn't really get easy points, can certainly stretch the floor, can certainly pick and pop, but when you give it to him in ISOs, it usually results in a tough 2. So what I'd like to see him do in order to maintain that top 3 status is one, on the offensive end, figure out a way to get easy buckets, whether that's doing things to get to the rim, learning to move without the ball, getting easy points that way, getting out in transition, or maybe even getting himself to the free throw line. But if you're going to be an elite scorer, you can't just be a tough shot maker, because that's a recipe for inefficiency. So he's got to do something to get easy buckets. And then the biggest thing is on the defensive end of the floor. Who do you defend? Because who you defend determines what position you are. If you're a four-man, I think that upside is not quite as high as if you are a legitimate big wing. But again, being a legitimate big wing, especially as you start projecting him out to the highest levels, it becomes about who you can defend. And so that, to me, is the biggest variable. So right now, does he maintain top three? If it's up to me, I say probably not. I think he's still a five-star status, but I got to see a little more growth on both ends of the floor for him to maintain that top three status. Who are the biggest names to watch at the Peach Jam? All right, so a couple of the ones we just mentioned. I think the biggest theme right now at the Peach Jam is who's going to be the number one ranked prospect when Gigi goes. So obviously all eyes are on Gigi, especially with the NBA scouts in the building, because he's draft eligible next season. We've already dove into that. DJ Wagner is the other big story. Talked about him, same EYBL team as McKenzie on that New Jersey Scholars. He's in the midst of a big recruiting battle between Louisville, where his grandfather was just hired to be on staff, and Kentucky. John Calipari coached his father. So DJ Wagner in the midst of that family recruiting battle, and also in contention for regain the number one ranking in the class. This is a battle in terms of who's going to be number one that I think is wide open. DJ Wagner probably has the best high school resume to date, but there's questions about how he translates long term. He's a volume scoring guard, not really a point guard. He's got to shoot the ball more consistently. He's not an elite athlete, but he is a guy who keeps coming at you, who scores in different ways, who plays very hard, who attacks consistently. So we'll see if he can regain that number one spot today. And then it's about who else could contend for that spot. And there are certainly a number of different guys. I'm of the opinion, in fact, one of my biggest takeaways here is that, coming into this month, I thought there were four players in contention for that number one spot. Gigi, DJ, Xavier Booker, who's not here, and Justin Edwards. And the more I watch, the more I think that it's more open than that. Modest Buzelis from Expressions, Travis Branham mentioned him in his write-up previewing this event. He's someone that at 6'10" is already committed to the G League Ignite, and kind of a jumbo wing playmaker, someone who we've got to keep an eye on. Bronny James is obviously a huge draw, not necessarily a candidate to be the number one ranked player, but I think he is a candidate to move up the rankings. He was as assertive and aggressive as I've seen him. Yesterday, he went for 28 points and 6 assists. I think he had 5 different threes. So he's a guy that historically has been content to kind of play within the flow of the offense, but yesterday really asserted himself as his team's primary playmaker. And that was the first time that I have seen him take on that role. If he can continue to do that and do so with efficiency, which he did yesterday, I think he's going to be a major riser in the class. And in terms of the players who draw the most attention, he's at the top of the list. The fact that his dad is here watching certainly doesn't hurt either. And that's actually another theme from the Peach Jam, is the NBA players that year in and year out come back and watch, whether it's because they're watching their kids or because they sponsor teams. So LeBron James is here watching Bronny. Carmelo Anthony is here watching his Team Mello squad, who competes in the EYBL. Russell Westbrook is here watching his squad, which is called Team Why Not. Blake Griffin is here watching his squad, which is called Team Griffin from Oklahoma. So there's a big NBA presence throughout the building as well that leads to all the excitement. I think that's going to be it for now, but thank you guys for checking this out. And we are going to continue to have updates from North Augusta, South Carolina throughout the course of the week leading up to the championship, which happens on Sunday. And so for the better part of the next 5 or 6 days, we'll keep the information coming. Stay tuned to 24/7 Sports and the 24/7 Sports YouTube page.